We are back on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio, News Talk, 1180, 1230 KGEO, 1410 KERI, 1000 KKIM in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and now on the internet on knookmedia.com. Our guest by phone, one of our favorite guests, talking a little baseball, Jane Leavy, the author of 2 incredible books I highly recommend, The Last Boy, Story of Mickey Mantle, and Sandy Koufax, A Lefty's Legacy. So, Jane, unfortunately, we only have about 9 minutes, but so do you think the Dodgers, since we're going to talk a little bit about Sandy Koufax, do you think the Dodgers are going to win the World Series this year?
Oh, gee, I know the politic answer is for me to say yes. However, I've learned not to make predictions, and thankfully I'm not in a job where I have to, because predictions make every writer look stupid. I certainly think that if they can harness Puig and his extraordinary ability, and if Kemp comes back healthy, they've got an unbelievable pitching staff. I was at the baseball writers' dinner in New York this year when Sandy Koufax gave Clayton Kershaw his award, and the Cy Young Award, and somebody said, "Oh, Sandy," had introduced him by saying, that Clayton was his protege, and Sandy was very meticulous about everything, including language, stood right up and said, "Oh, he's not my protege. He doesn't need to be anybody's second." I know that Sandy thinks he's, well, he's the second coming of Sandy Koufax, is what he is. And if he's lucky, he'll have a longer career and a longer time to demonstrate his exceptional talent.
Well, the Dodgers now have the highest paid player in baseball.
Oh, do they really?
Yes.
Yeah.
They've replaced the Yankees as they're the evil Sonny Empire.
Right. I guess it's the new owners that are making this happen, isn't it? Magic Johnson, one of the owners of the Dodgers now? He is.
He's sort of the
face.
What player? They're all like, oh, go play in L.A. for Magic. What could be bad? But the guy behind it, Mark Walters, is certainly got a lot of money to spend, and he's put people in position to spend it well.
Yeah.
So I have to say, I think the signing $10 million for Dan Harron, having seen him in Washington last year, was an odd thing.
Now, the Dodgers have always been competitive, but they really haven't been the Dodgers of the past, the 50s and 60s, like the Dodgers and Yankees would play every year. It used to be awesome to watch that World Series. What we need to have is another Dodger-Yankee World Series, I think.
Do you think that's possible?
I don't think you're going to. Not this year. Not the Yankees have no infield.
Yeah, that's true. They don't have an infield.
Well, they have one.
Absolutely no infield. I mean, I don't. I think they're going to have surprisingly good pitching. I think Ivan Nova has really, who's always had great stuff, has sort of learned to harness it. And Pineda, if he can stay together, the guy they traded for 2 years ago, he exchanged that young catching phenom who's now in the minor leagues, Montero, seems to be back. So they could be surprising in terms of their pitching. But I don't know who's going to stop the ball.
So I'm going to Vegas. I'm going to Vegas.
I'm not missing A-Rod.
Oh, so who do you think is going to make it to the World Series so I can place a bet when I go to Vegas?
Who's going to make it to the World Series?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't think you can go wrong betting against St. Louis, unfortunately. You might see St. Louis and the Dodgers in the playoffs. The American League. I saw Texas the other day, and, then they suffered all those injuries. So I think their, chances just went. I mean, they're going to miss their catcher, Soto, and the young shortstop for 10 or 12 weeks. I mean, Boston looks awful good, but you know what? I never want to bet against Joe Madden. I think he's the most creative, interesting manager in baseball. And those Rays are always in it one way or another.
We're having a conversation with Jane Leavy, author of The Last Boy, Story of Mickey Mantle, and Sandy Koufax, A Lefty's Legacy. Jane, we just lost half our audience because you said St. Louis is going to beat the Dodgers in the playoffs, huh? Is that your?
Listen, and this is coming from a transplanted New Yorker. Believe me, remember they beat the Yankees in '64, the last year Mantle was in the World Series, and
That's
when
right.
he tied Babe Ruth for the most World Series home runs, and then exceeded him for the most World Series home runs. We were talking before about Mickey, and you were asking about his potential and how much it was circumscribed. As many of you know, Dr. Frank Jobe, who was the longtime Dodger team physician and orthopedist,
yes,
and the man who invented Tommy John surgery, died 2 weeks ago, I believe it is, and it's a fascinating thing to think about what would have been for both Koufax and Mantle had that surgery been available to them, because Mickey could have had complete knee reconstruction. Now today everybody says, oh, well, you miss a year and you come back. Mantle would have missed a year. He would have come back. You would have seen him with the part of his game that he lost completely, which was speed. He still could go first or third if nobody stopped him. But he didn't, they never let him steal. And in the outfield, he outran balls. He wasn't a natural or a long time, he wasn't the outfielder that Willie Mays was. But I think then you would have seen his full potential. And Koufax, of course, retired after winning 27 games in '66 because he could no longer brush his teeth and comb his hair. And he had asked Bob Curlin, who was Jobe's predecessor, tell me when I'm in danger of losing use of my left arm. And he told him at the beginning of the '66 season, okay, this is it. And so Sandy went out on top. But, he actually asked Jobe one time, well, how come you never did this on me? Well, hadn't figured it out yet.
Yeah, crazy. Contrast, we've got about a little over 2 minutes left, Jane. Contrast Mickey Mantle and Sandy Koufax. And Koufax is working back for the Dodgers again. Isn't that neat?
I can do that. One was an outfielder and one was a pitcher.
Very good, Clay. I know there's a reason why you were awake today. They were so totally different kind of men and ball players. And
I actually disagree with that.
Really?
I think that it is easy to see the ways in which they were opposite. One was a New York Jew and, kind of a tall, dark, and handsome guy, and Mickey was the Oklahoma hick, blonde, and blue-eyed, and dimpled. Actually, they both had dimples. And an outfielder, obviously, and a pitcher. But there are ways in which they were very similar. They both played hurt. They were consummate team guys. And they never one-upped anybody because of their status as stars of the team. They were Sandy's guys that he hung out with, on the Dodgers were rookies and scrubs. Dick Tracewski was like his roommate and one of his best friends. Maury Wills was a very good friend of his. And back in the day when Maury would be subjected to lots of hate mail because he was African American, and Sandy would get an equivalent amount because he was Jewish, they would sit icing legs and knees and sore elbows long after the game and read each other's hate mail aloud to each other.
Oh, crazy.
And, and Mickey was equally a team guy who always played hurt and never, he just wanted to be one of the guys.
Gene,
I think they're more similar than you would think.
Jane,
right? Sandy is much more of an intellectual.
Yeah.
Put it that way.
Jane, I got to end it there. Thank you so much for the time.
And you know what, Marty? I'm on to Babe Ruth. So if anybody has any Babe Ruth stories they want to share, especially from his barnstorming tours of California, send me an email at jane.levy@me.com.
He hit a lot of home runs.
We'll see you in 160.
Yeah, he sure did.
We'll see you in 167 hours on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio News Talk 1180.